EMCO in Sabah, 3 more states under CMCO. Temple prayers in RMCO and EMCO areas only allowed on first day of Deepavali. Good evening. You're watching News at 10 with me, Muhammad Amin Carlos. The Enhanced Movement Control Order, EMCO, will be imposed on 3 new locations in Sabah, while 1 sub-district each in Negeri Sembilan, Terengganu and Perak will be put under Conditional Movement Control Order, CMCO. Well, Senior Minister for Security, Dato Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said the implementation of EMCO beginning 6th to the 19th of November will involve the Tawau Temporary Detention Centre, or PTS, Sandakan Prison and prison quarters in Taman Wira, Sandakan.
Pelaksanaan PKPD ini bagi membolehkan KKM untuk melaksanakan saringan bersasar kepada tahanan dan kaki tangan di tahanan pusat tahanan ini. Oleh kerana PKPD, maka SOP PKPD adalah sama juga dengan di kawasan penjara lain, ya. Tak boleh keluar masuk, keluarga tak boleh melawat dan sebagainya.
Meanwhile, the sub-districts involved in the CMCO are Parit Bunta in Perak, Rasau in Dungun, Terengganu and Jima in Port Dickson, Negeri Sembilan. The directive is effective this Saturday until 20th November. As for the EMCO in Anjung Tedoh, Felda Sahabat Lahad Datu, which was scheduled to end tomorrow, it is extended for another 2 weeks, beginning 7th to 20th November. In a related development, EMCO involving 6 localities in Semporna and 1 locality in Kunak will expire at midnight tonight. As for the EMCO at Pokok Sena Prison in Kedah, the directive will end this Saturday according to schedule following risk evaluation conducted by the Health Ministry. Malaysians living in areas placed under the Conditional Movement Control Order, CMCO, and Enhanced MCO are not allowed to cross borders during the Deepavali celebration. However, the Hindus will be allowed to carry out their prayer offering ceremony at nearby temples with strict SOP on the first day of the celebration. Senior Minister for Security, Dato Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said the ceremony must be conducted in batches of only 30 devotees at a time, while those suffering from chronic diseases, the elderly and children aged 12 and below are not encouraged at the temples.
Sesi upacara semayang perlu diadakan bermula dari jam 7 pagi sehingga 12 tengah hari dengan pembahagian masa sebanyak 5 sesi untuk semayang, manakala setiap antara sesi semayang dengan semayang yang kedua, yang seterusnya ada 30 minit untuk sanitasi.
As for the celebrations at residential homes, the number of guests allowed to gather at a time is between 10 to 20 people, depending on the type of house. However, those living in the EMCO areas are not allowed to visit each other and can only perform their prayers at the temples. Well, the ceiling prices of and for 20 types of food items have been set under the Deepavali Festive Price Control Scheme. Well, they will take effect from the 9th to the 17th of November, and the list includes 2 new items, namely cucumber and long beans. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dato Sri Alexander Nantalinggi said the prices were determined after taking into consideration several factors, including benefits to both consumers and traders.
Dengan menggunakan pendekatan menang-menang atau win-win kepada pengguna dan peniaga. Pengguna dapat menikmati harga yang berpatutan dan peniaga tidak tertekan dengan tempoh masa pelaksanaan yang terlalu lama.
He said this today during a virtual announcement on the Deepavali festive price control scheme. Dato Sri Alexander reminded traders to comply with the ceiling price ruling and warned that action awaited those who fail to comply. He said the ministry will beef up the presence of its enforcement officers to create an ethical and safe business surrounding. The public is also encouraged to play their part as responsible consumers by alerting the authorities should they come across traders who do not honor the ceiling price ruling. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Economy, Dato Sri Mustafa Mohamad, is confident that the government will find the best way following the suggestion to allow contributors to withdraw funds from Account 1 of the Employees' Provident Fund, the EPF. Now, he said a careful study was needed on this as there were constraints with regard to the Account 1, as it also involved retirees and targeted groups such as those who were already financially strained.
Akaun satu ini adalah untuk bersara, tempoh bersara. Yang kedua, kita sedia maklum rakyat terimpit dengan keadaan ini. Jadi kerajaan sudah pasti akan melihat pada dua-dua aspek tersebut. Kerajaan sudah menerima banyak tuntutan dan permohonan, nampak popular, dan Perdana Menteri sudah bagi respon, dan tertunggulah mungkin Menteri Kewangan nak buat pengumuman.
Met after the Kelantan State Legislative Assembly sitting in Kota Baru today, he said that about 70% of the EPF contributors have savings of less than 50,000 ringgit, and hence this matter is not easy to decide on. On the same development, Dato Sri Mustafa acknowledged that some things were easy to decide on, while some issues required careful consideration and scrutiny. He said EPF had 14.5 million contributors so far, but only 8 million were active contributors. He said EPF is a retirement saving, and since the average lifespan of contributors is getting longer, there's a need to ensure a sufficient amount of savings during old age. Yesterday, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the government was studying the suggestion to allow certain contributors such as laid-off workers to withdraw funds from Account 1 of the EPF. The government is ready to consider declaring an emergency on areas that are involved with elections. And according to Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Dato Takiyuddin Hassan, it is possible for the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to declare an emergency in order to hold off any election if needed, as enshrined in the Federal Constitution.
Dalam artikel 150 adalah jelas bahawa Yang di-Pertuan Agong mempunyai kuasa untuk mengadakan satu proklamasi darurat seluruh negara ataupun mana-mana bahagian, any part thereof. Jadi jika sekiranya dirasakan perlu, mungkin kerajaan akan fikirkan. Kalau tidak keseluruhan adalah any part thereof, sebahagian, mana-mana bahagian daripada perlembagaan. Pokoknya dari segi perlembagaan ianya adalah dibolehkan.
Dato Takiyuddin was answering a question by Pasir Gudang MP Hassan Karim. Meanwhile, he said the cost for holding the Sabah state election recently was 130 million ringgit, comprising the purchase and rental of election equipment, logistics, staff allowances and other related needs. The expenditure also covered the equipment required in accordance with the COVID-19 prevention guidelines. Well, the lack of commitment by contributors is among the many challenges that arise while implementing the Food Bank program in the country. Deputy Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dato Rosal Wahid said this is because there are several factories, corporate companies and supermarkets that are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Further explained, he said certain companies can no longer commit in providing assistance as they have been largely affected economically. However, the ministry remains dedicated in cooperating with other contributing organizations to ensure that the aid can continue to be provided to the program's recipients. The Deputy Minister said a total of 622,726 households have benefited from the Community Food Bank program as of last month. This indirectly saved 2,301 metric tons of leftover food, which is estimated to be worth about 11 million ringgit. Dato Rosal added that the assistance involved households from the B40 group and extreme poor categories such as residents at low-cost housing areas, victims of disasters and others.
Selain itu, pada Oktober 2020,
Program Food Bank Inklusiswa pula telah mampu membantu seramai 17,574 pelajar di 25 IPT di seluruh negara. Dan sepanjang tempoh PKP baru-baru ini, iaitu bermula Mac yang lalu, Food Bank ini telah menyumbang dan membantu lebih daripada 60,000 pelajar yang terkandas di IPT.
He was replying to a question by Setiawangsa MP Nick Ahmad, who asked on the effectiveness and challenges of the food bank program in Malaysia to date. Beginning 9th November to the 15th of December, the Dewan Rakyat will only sit from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in view of the current COVID-19 situation in the country. Now, the third meeting of the third session of the 14th Parliament may also be extended for another 2 days from 16th to the 17th of December if needed.
Sesi pertanyaan bagi jawab lisan pada hari Isnin dan Rabu selama 1 jam, 10 hingga 11 pagi. Pada hari Selasa dan Khamis, sesi pertanyaan bagi jawab lisan ialah selama 55 minit daripada 10.05 pagi hingga 11 pagi. Hanya satu sahaja soalan tambahan dibenarkan dan soalan tambahan tersebut mestilah seringkas yang boleh.
Deputy Speaker Dato Muhammad Rashid Hassanon was reading out the text of announcement by the Speaker, Dato Azhar Azizan Harun, at Dewan Rakyat sitting today. He further explained that the number of members of Parliament or MPs allowed to attend each sitting has also been limited to 80, with the attendance to be divided into 41 government MPs and 39 opposition and independent parliamentarians. The attendance of the MPs will be decided by respective political parties. The decision to implement the SOP was reached on the advice of National Security Council and Health Ministry at the Dewan Rakyat Order of Business Coordination meeting following spread of COVID-19 yesterday. Well, there are 1,009 new COVID-19 cases today, making it the third day in a row Malaysia has recorded new cases numbering in 4 digits. Now, this brings the tally of infections nationwide to 36,434. And Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said this, however, is in line with the ministry's projections as a result of targeted screenings, particularly in areas under the Enhanced Movement Control Order, EMCO. Of the new cases, 9 were reported involving 4 citizens and 5 non-citizens.
Ingin dimaklumkan daripada 1,009 kes baru yang dilaporkan pada hari ini, terdapat 9 kes import yang mendapat jangkitan dari luar negara yang melibatkan 4 warga negara dan 5 bukan warga negara yang tiba daripada negara India 2 kes, Kazakhstan 1 kes, Indonesia 1 kes, Korea Selatan 1 kes, Nigeria 1 kes, Afrika Selatan 1 kes, Meksiko 1 kes dan Kemboja 1 kes.
Meanwhile, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham said 839 more patients have recovered and discharged from hospitals. He said a total of 78 patients are being treated at intensive care units or ICUs, with 28 on ventilator support. 6 more deaths related to the novel coronavirus were reported to the National Crisis Preparedness and Response Centre, CPRC, as at noon today, raising the nationwide death toll to 277. The nation also reported 5 new clusters, 2 in Sabah and the remaining ones in the peninsula. The new clusters reported in Sabah are the Sutra cluster in Kota Kinabalu and the Ria 30 cluster in Tuaran. In the peninsula, they are the Tamar cluster in Petaling, Selangor, the Intan cluster in northeast Pulau Pinang, and the Danau cluster involving Titiwangsa in Kuala Lumpur. The Selangor State Legislative Assembly was told today that most of the river pollution cases in the state were caused by licensed companies or factories. The State Tourism, Environment, Green Technology and Orang Asli Affairs Committee Chairman He Loy Sian said the state government did not tolerate the parties involved and would take appropriate action, including seizing the land where their premises were built. He said since 2017, 8 companies had faced legal action taken by the Selangor Department of Environment, the DOE, and Lembaga Urus Air Selangor, LUAS, under the various acts and enactments. 4 companies have been prosecuted for causing pollution at the Semenyih River Water Treatment Plants, LRA, and 4 others for causing pollution at the Selangor River, LRA.
Sebenarnya yang mencemarkan sungai ini kebanyakan ni kilang yang berisik, bukan yang haram. So saya rasa banyak orang ada tangkapan yang silap, kata kilang haram tu boleh selalu mencemarkan sungai. Tidak, yang mencemar sungai dalam data itu ada semua kilang yang berdaftar yang berisik. So itu yang kita ambil tindakan dan kita tidak betul langsung. Kalau dia melanggar undang sedia ada, kita akan gunakan proses Seksyen 7 Akta di mana kita akan merampas tanah itu.
He was replying to a supplementary question at the State Legislative Assembly sitting today on the actions taken by the state government if the same factory was found to cause repeated pollution. According to he, the Selangor DOE frequently conducted spot checks on the respective companies and factories to ensure that they adhere to the regulations and stipulated effluent discharge method. The Works Ministry will collaborate closely with the Sabah state government in finding the best method to speed up the Borneo Highway project. Its Minister, Dato Sri Fadillah Yusof, said he will have a meeting with Sabah Deputy Chief Minister, Dato Sri Bung Mokhtar Radin, for a more comprehensive discussion.
Kerajaan Pakatan Harapan telah menamatkan PDP. Bila PDP ini ditamatkan, ianya sudah pasti menjejaskan perancangan ataupun pelaksanaan PEN Borneo itu sendiri. Disebabkan adjustment dengan izin yang paksa dilaksanakan bila diserahkan pelaksanaan ini kepada JKR. Untuk itu, keseluruhan yang dirancangkan secara awalan, keseluruhan package PEN Borneo Sabah ialah 35. Yang telah dalam pelaksanaan ialah 11. 4 lagi akan dalam proses tender. Manakala 20 lagi belum ada kelulusan peruntukan.
Dato Sri Fadillah stressed that the government is committed to continuing the implementation of 15 work packages of the project, which cost about 10 billion ringgit following the termination of the previous project delivery partner agreement. He was replying to a question by the Kinabatangan MP, Dato Sri Bung Mokhtar Radin, at the Dewan Rakyat sitting. Still ahead, Biden takes big stride to winning U.S. presidency while Trump claims fraud. Well, Democrat Joe Biden took a huge step to capturing the White House with wins in Michigan and Wisconsin, bringing him close to a majority. But President Donald Trump responded with fury as his campaign sued to suspend vote counting. Now, in a brief address on national television flanked by American flags and his vice presidential pick, Kamala Harris, Biden said he wasn't yet declaring victory, but that when the count is finished, he believes his campaign will be the winners. Now, by flipping the northern battlegrounds of Michigan and Wisconsin, Biden reached 264 electoral votes against 214 so far for Trump. By adding the 6 of Nevada, where he is narrowly ahead, or the larger prizes of Hartford, Georgia, or Pennsylvania, Biden would hit the magic number of 270 needed to win the White House. In stark contrast to Trump's increasingly heated rhetoric about being cheated, Biden sought to project calm, reaching out to a nation torn of 4 years and by 4 years of polarizing leadership and traumatized by the COVID-19 pandemic, with new daily infections yesterday close to hitting 100,000 for the first time. American presidential elections are decided not by the popular vote, but by securing a majority in the state-by-state electoral college, which has 538 members. U.S. media organizations called Michigan for Biden, where he had a lead of some 120,000 votes. Earlier, Biden claimed Wisconsin with a narrower but insurmountable lead. The two states, along with Arizona, another that Biden was projected to flip, put the Democrat within arm's reach of making Trump the first one-term president in 28 years. Well, meanwhile, thousands of Joe Biden supporters march in New York to demand every vote in the tight presidential election be counted, as some Donald Trump supporters protested in Detroit, demanding a halt to ballot counting in the key state of Michigan. New York demonstrators were peaceful and spanned generations, with marches heading from Fifth Avenue towards Washington Square Park in the heart of Manhattan's Greenwich Village. In New York's Democratic stronghold, demonstrators were hopeful but wary of calling it for their candidate Biden just yet. yet. The Detroit protests outside a ballot processing center were far more tense, according to an AFP photographer and clips on social media. Cries of "Stop the count" rang out in the city of Michigan, where U.S. media declared Biden the victor as Trump's campaign announced a lawsuit to try and suspend the vote count, claiming its team was denied proper access to observe vote counting. Social media clips showed protesters with fists raised, prevented from entering the center by police. And according to U.S. network projections, with Michigan's 16 electoral votes, Biden now has a total of 264, 6 shy of the magic number of 270 needed to win the U.S. presidency. And after downing a final round of drinks, queuing outside soon to close shops, or getting a last haircut, England's 56 million people entered a second COVID-19 lockdown today with more doubts about the stringent policy than the first time around. Now, Prime Minister Boris Johnson abandoned a recently introduced system of regional curbs and announced an England-wide shutdown after dire warnings that hospitals could soon be overwhelmed with the virus cases. The death toll is hitting 6-month highs. But while opinion polls suggest overall public backing for the stay-at-home policy, concerns are mounting about the impact of the economy and on mental health. A sizable minority of 32 MPs from the ruling Conservative Party voted against the measures yesterday. But when the country entered its first lockdown in bright March springtime, support was strong. But compliance with the virus measures has been fraying the longer they drag on into the winter and as people's livelihoods come under greater strain. Now, the Bank of England today unveiled an extra £150 billion in cash stimulus as it forecasts a deeper recession than previously thought for the coronavirus-racked UK economy. Britain is among the world's hardest-hit countries, with nearly 48,000 deaths linked to the COVID-19 from just over 1 million positive cases. England joined the other nations of the United Kingdom, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland in imposing another lockdown in line with European nations, including France and Germany. Coming up in sports, sloppy Manchester United shocked by Başakşehir in Champions League. But first, in the local scene, Esports Kuala Lumpur Association, ESKL President Hisham Darus said electronic sports, or esports, which are gaining popularity among various age segments, should be given special emphasis in Budget 2021. He said in the face of new norms affecting all economic and sports sectors in the country, esports could prove to be the most effective platform to help the community comply with government directives, such as holding online tournaments and webinar sessions. Hisham said there should be special emphasis on educating the community on approaching esports in a healthy and responsible manner. According to him, Malaysia is also lagging behind other countries in the region in terms of infrastructure and grassroots development. Hisham is also confident that if this development allocation can be provided, the cooperation between the government and the respective associations and the community will definitely enable Malaysia to produce more world-class professional athletes. In the meantime, Hisham said the esports ecosystem also included various elements that could contribute to the country's economic development, such as the organizing of tournaments, coaching and content creation. Well, Kedah Darul Aman Football Club is set to have a new owner soon, as a private company has agreed to purchase 80% of the club's shares. Kedah Football Association KFA President Kedah Menteri Besar Muhammad Sanusi Madnor said that the remaining 20% of shares would remain under KFA.
Kerana pemilikan saham dia besar dan banyak keputusan-keputusan tentang pembentukan pasukan, pengurusan kelab ni akan dikendalikan oleh syarikat ni lah. Saya berasa lega sikit pasal beban kewangan untuk mengendalikan bola sepak ni memang tinggi, di luar kemampuan keuangan.
Speaking to reporters after chairing the Kedah State Executive Council meeting yesterday, he said KFA meanwhile will focus on local leagues such as the Menteri Besar's Cup, which will be held again next year. Muhammad Sanusi also said that the purchase of shares by the company was still pending certain legal procedures. Perak is optimistic of carving out a win against Kelantan United in the first round of the 2020 Malaysia Cup that will take place at the Perak Stadium on Saturday. Now, Perak Football Association Vice President Dato' Adli Shah Ahmad Tah said he was confident based on the commitment and determination shown by the players, especially during recent training sessions. He said the experience that Perak players have is also an advantage. However, he reminded them not to underestimate the opposition because surprises can occur anytime, especially in the current knockout format. Based on the draw, if the Bosgorus, who are also 2018 Malaysia Cup champions, get past Kelantan United, they would either face Terengganu FC or PJ City in the quarterfinals. Dato' Adli Shah, who is also the team manager, expressed relief that all of the squad's main players were injury-free, increasing their chances to go all the way. On the termination of Australian import player Anthony Golek's contract 2 weeks ago, he said that it was due to personal reasons and that there were no issues between the defender and club. He also said that it would not affect the Bosgorus' focus on the Malaysia Cup campaign, as there are several local players in the squad who play in the same position and can fill the void left by Golek. Well, elsewhere, Manchester United suffered a shock 2-1 defeat at Istanbul Başakşehir early this morning. The English side's first loss in 3 Champions League group matches and the Turkish champions' first victory in Europe's Premier Club competition.
Is on his way here.
United fell behind after 12 minutes when Eden Vescar's long pass found Dembaba in acres of space and the striker ran forward before finishing neatly past goalkeeper Dean Henderson. Başakşehir doubled their lead 5 minutes before halftime after Deniz Türüç nicked the ball from Juan Mata and passed to Ba, who set up Vescar to score. Anthony Marshall's header 2 minutes later gave United hope, but despite enjoying plenty of possession in the second half, they were unable to break down the Turkish side's disciplined defence. United played poorly in the first half, and although they showed greater urgency after the interval, they only managed one more effort on target. Solskjaer sent on Paul Pogba and Edison Cavani as substitute, and in stoppage time, Alexandru Epuranu brilliantly cleared off the line to prevent an own goal as United's 18-match unbeaten away run in all competitions ended. United, who beat last season's runners-up Paris Saint-Germain and RB Leipzig in their first 2 games, top Group H with 6 points from 3 matches, and Başakşehir have 3 after their first victory in the competition. And at the Ramon Sanchez-Pizjuan Sevilla, forward Yusuf En-Nesyri came off the bench to fire his side to a courageous 3-2 home win over Krasnodar as the Spaniards turned the game around with 10 men after captain Jesus Navas was sent off. A free kick from Shapi Soleimanov in the 17th minute and Marcus Berg penalty 4 minutes later got the Russians off to a dream start, but Sevilla hit back through Ivan Rakitic before the break. Sevilla had been awarded an early penalty that was taken away following a VAR review, and they endured yet another setback late in a frenetic first half when Navas was shown a straight red card for a reckless foul on Christopherson Olsen. But Julen Lopetegui's side came out fighting in the second period, and playing with 10 men hardly affected their ambition or ability to carve out chances. And that's it from us this evening. In our top story, 3 new EMCO in Sabah, 3 more states under CMCO. Join us for updates at noon at 12:30 tomorrow. I'm Mohammed Amin Carlos. Thanks for watching.